New builds can be super easy or super complicated depending on what you're looking for. This video today is going to go through and explain to you guys my top 4 reasons why new builds are easy and why I would 100% tell my clients to go after one and chase one if there was one that they really liked. And I will also give you my top 4 reasons why new builds can be a really big challenge and can be an emotional roller coaster that can go into a weird downward spiral and can really make people, see new builds versus existing builds in a totally new light. So come along with me today as we go through those 8 different items, and can't wait to be able to explain this stuff to you. Just like always, my name is Connor Martin. I work with Sukup Real Estate Services in Fort Collins, Colorado. If you're looking to buy, sell, buy new, or if you're just thinking about trying to move out here rent-wise, feel free to always give us a call and get your information and questions answered. It is so much better coming here and moving to some place that you have a trusted friend and trusted information that you can go to. And that's really what we at Sukup Real Estate hope we provide to you guys, especially here on YouTube, to give you guys the best idea of what Northern Colorado looks like. If you're looking for any other specific information, on specific towns, there are definitely more videos down in my YouTube channel. Otherwise, you could always go check out Patrick Sukup's page, Living in Fort Collins. It will explain everything about Fort Collins. He's a Fort Collins native. It is always a great other resource for finding any information you want on Northern Colorado, and specifically for him, Fort Collins. So come along with me today and let's check out these 8 different items. So I always like giving the good news first versus the bad. So let's go through those 4 good reasons why you should pursue a new build if you're looking to buy a house here in Northern Colorado. Number 1 is you're working with a reputable builder / seller. These transactions can be very simple, very easy. The builder will have their own specific contract already set up, all ready to go, super simple to get filled out with you. And it will outline literally everything from the day you start to the day you close and to the day after close when you have all your warranties and everything set up for you to live there for the next however long. So having a legitimate company and not having to worry about someone who's lived in a home and isn't a reputable seller, or might not be a reputable seller, might be lying to you or, misleading you on information. Builders are typically pretty good with that, with not misleading people and making sure that everyone understands exactly how the process works. Number 2 is going to be your warranties. Warranties are great depending on what it's for. When you get a new build, you normally get a 10-year warranty on anything structural. You typically get a year or 2 on anything that is, not structural. So if you had any issues with your, cabinets, or if you had any issues with countertops or flooring, you have about a year or 2 of use, to see how those materials work out, and you can get them fixed relatively easy and, for most of the time, pretty cheap and free on that side because it is a warranty. So warranties with new builds are great, a lot better than like a home warranty on an existing build, because those, even though it's a warranty, kind of a warranty, you're still paying a certain percentage to get that work fixed. So if your HVAC went out on an existing build and you had a home warranty on that place that the seller sold to you, you're still going to have money out of pocket, where with a new build, they'll probably come out and just fix it. One good example is I have a new build out in Platteville, Colorado. Unfortunately, the garage doors started to bubble, and the builders came out right away, said, hey, we're going to get all these garage door panels replaced for you. And that was the end of the story on that side. And it's a really good deal on that end. Another big one for me on that side is incentives and, just quality as well. A lot of these builders do have a reputation to uphold. You can definitely go on to Google and do plenty of reviews on whatever builder you want to, and I will never throw slang to certain builders or not. But definitely there are builders out there that are doing a really good high quality job, and then there are builders out there that are skipping corners and hoping that the buyers don't notice. And so that'll obviously come back in the negative side, but Most builders are quality, and you get 3 options or chances to go through and look. You get 3 orientations is what I can kind of consider them. The first one is the pre-drywall walk. So you get to see all the studs, make sure all the electrical is put in and everything else you would need there. Make sure the ducts are put in right before they go in and get things inspected by the city. Then they go through and they insulate and drywall, and you will never see it again. But it is really a nice feature to be able to go through and look at your house before the drywall's on, because it makes a huge difference later on. And one big thing I would suggest doing, and I do for all my clients, is I go out for that pre-construction or pre-drywall meeting, and I will video everything on the house, from the inside studs to the electricals to where the wiring is. So when that drywall does come on, you could always use that as a reference to see, okay, well, where's the studs at? Where are they going to be 16 on center? And so just another little good detail just to keep in mind on that side. My last reason why I think new builds are totally worth it, and something I didn't really go through, was the incentive side. So right now, in January 2nd, 2023, new builds definitely are in a struggle, but they're definitely starting to feel the pressure of the higher interest rates, less of a buyer market. And so a lot of these new builders are actually going out and offering really good incentives, $15,000 at closing. They might offer blinds, they might offer higher end appliances. And so when you're going through a new build, the one thing I would 100% suggest, if it is you going through it by yourself, without a realtor or with a realtor, make sure you're asking for certain items. Make sure you know what the incentives are at that new build, and make sure that you're really benefiting on those, because that's one of the biggest reasons to go with a new build, is because of those incentives and the fact that you don't have to go through and negotiate with with an existing build or seller. You're dealing with a big company with a lot of homes that want to get them sold. And so to me, that's one of the biggest things. So keep your eye out for that, because that would give you some pretty cool incentives and could give you a nice little leg up in this type of a market where we still don't 100% know where it's going. Now let's move on to the negatives, which are always fun, but always painful at the same time. So let's try and give those a shot. Okay, so my first reason why I would say potentially stay away from a new build, and it just depends on circumstance. So make sure you look at your situation and then determine if these really fit it or not, because depending on the new build, I had one that just closed last week that was super simple, easy, and none of these things applied to it. But then I had one about a month ago that these did apply to, and things that you really had to look out for. So number one is going to be quality of work. We worked with this builder. It was a ground up build. It wasn't already existing. And so everything had to be done on it. And we got a time frame, December 16th of 2022, for it to be completed. And, due to the builder, probably being scared to a certain regard of what the market was going to do, he ended up pushing his workers to get the home completed about 3 weeks in advance compared to the original close date, which really pushed them and also really hurt the quality of the build of the home. And because of that, I was there constantly fighting with the builders, with the construction guys, constantly saying, hey, this is wrong. This needs to be fixed before close. We need to make sure we have these things figured out. And because these guys were in such a rush, they didn't really care. And so we had to be a thorn in their foot and really force our hand to make sure that they were going to be getting these things completed. One example is them shoving a bunch of their McDonald's pop bottles, water bottles into the walls and not cleaning that trash out. Well, I had to go back through and cut out a piece of drywall to make sure and verify that they cleaned it out like I asked them to. They did not, and we ended up having a conversation on that. So quality, depending on the buyer and the time, make sure you look out for that. Number two is going to be, even though they're giving you good incentives, make sure you know where you're at in the contract, know where you are, in terms of being able to cancel the contract and get your earnest money back, or just in general being able to cancel a contract without being sued. we've had issues in the past, depending on where we are in time frame wise, that, you know, if a builder really wants you to close because of their construction contracts, there are very limited time frames for you as a buyer to get out of them. And so make sure when you're going through the contract with the builder or with your realtor, make sure they're explaining to you exactly when your cancellation dates are, because those are very important, especially if things are going south in your build. And you don't want to be waiting for the last minute to hope that the builder has a kind heart and lets you get out of the contract without losing earnest money, or even more depending on it. My third reason is going to be that I would say stay away from new builds is going to be the fact that they can pretty much have the freedom of whenever they want to close. So be prepared to close when the builder wants to close, not when you want to close. They can move the time frame up, they can move the time frame back, and I've seen pretty much every part of it where they make it work for their schedule, not for your schedule. So if you're trying to sell your house and not be homeless and be able to make a smooth transition, make sure that is very relevant in the contract, that they cannot move those dates, because it can throw things off. And I have seen that happen, and it becomes a really hard negotiation tactic because there just isn't much once you start talking about closing, and they will never give you an exact closing date. So be prepared for that and know that you have to have flexibility when doing a new build from the ground up. My last reason why I would say stay away from a new build and go with an existing build is the fact that a lot of these companies don't put the fencing in, don't put the landscaping in. And so those are all extra duties that you're going to have to do after you close. So say you close it in the last few months, well, you're not going to be able to get a fence in, you're not going to be able to get your landscaping in. And so if you have an animal or a dog, you're not going to be able to get that stuff in until next spring when the soil actually thaws and it's easier to put concrete, grass, irrigation out there. So there's always extra work to do, even on a new build, and new builds are not perfect, just like existing builds are. So make sure you understand why you're doing a new build and the purpose behind it. If it's because you're wanting to have less work done to the home and you just want to move in, know that that's not really the case anymore. There is always going to be work that has to be completed, and just something to be aware of. I really hope these 8 tips really helped you understand, the pros of going with a new build versus, the 4 negatives of not going with a new build. And, really hope these videos help you guys just kind of give a better perspective of what might work best for you come your future plans of buying a new home or thinking about selling your new home, and what you would look for and what you'd want to market to your clients. And so no matter who you're working with, if you're working with me or working with a realtor or just working with a construction company, make sure you keep these ideas on hand. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to always give me a call, because these are things I love discussing and making sure you're making the right choice for what you want. I hope you guys have a good rest of your 2023 and can't wait to be able to talk to you guys next week.